Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're taking a closer look at Oncolytics Biotech. You send over quite a bit of information on this clinical stage company, and we're going to pull out the really key insights for you.
That's right. The goal here is for you to quickly get what's most important. We'll hit the significant points in their financials, where they sit in the competitive biotech world, and what the latest news really means. Think of it as your shortcut to understanding Oncolytics without getting, let's say, bogged down in all the super technical stuff.
Okay. We've got a due diligence report, some recent news updates, a company overview too. Our job is to boil it down to what really matters for you. All right, let's start with the financial picture. What are the key things jumping out from these numbers?
Well, I mean, what stands out first is a profile that's pretty standard for a biotech at this point in its life cycle. The minimal revenue reported, that's not a shock. Their focus is, squarely on R&D, not on selling therapies yet. So revenue growth isn't really the metric to watch right now. This lack of current income really highlights the risk and potential reward, right? You're investing in future possibilities, not current earnings.
That makes sense. And they did report a net loss in Q4 2024. Again, understandable given the heavy R&D spend. So things like the price to earnings ratio or return on equity, they just don't really apply here, do they?
Not really, no. But looking a bit broader, the net cash used in operating activities, that gives us a good insight. For the 12 months ending December 31st, 2024, it was $27.0 million. That's actually slightly down from $28.4 million the year before.
Okay.
So that gives you a sense of their operational burn rate, basically, how much cash they're using up to keep things running.
Right. So let's pivot to the core business then. Polari-Orep, that seems to be the main event here. Tell us about that and why it's important.
It really is their main focus. Polari-Orep is an intravenously delivered immuno-oncolytic virus. Now, its mechanism, that's the interesting part. It's designed to turn cold tumors hot. What that means is cold tumors are sort of hidden from the immune system, hard to treat with standard immunotherapies.
Ah, okay.
Polari-Orep aims to trigger both the immediate sort of general immune response, that's the innate, and the more specific learned response, the adaptive, to actually attack the cancer cells.
I see.
This could potentially open up treatment for patients who maybe don't respond well to current therapies, which often need some existing immune response to work with.
And that's where it gets interesting because the info points to some promising results, particularly in tough areas like metastatic breast cancer and pancreatic cancer. It also seems to work particularly well when combined with other treatments.
Yes, that synergy with other oncology treatments is really a key point. The potential for combination therapies could be a big differentiator for Polari-Orep. They try to, carve out their space.
Speaking of space, the biotech industry itself is, well, it's fierce. You've got huge players, Amgen, Gilead Sciences, Biogen, and then more direct immunotherapy competitors like Merck, Bristol Myers Squibb. How does Oncolytics plan to stand out in that crowd?
That really is the core question, isn't it? How do they differentiate? They're focusing on this specific niche with Polari-Orep's unique mechanism, hitting those cold tumors. If it shows consistent results in certain cancer types, that novel approach could be a real advantage. It's different from, say, the checkpoint inhibitors that some of the giants focus on. It's another angle.
A different angle.
But that novelty is both a strength and a challenge. They still have to prove its wider value.
Okay, let's shift to recent developments. Seems like there's been some movement lately.
There has. So Oncolytics has a conference call scheduled, May 14th, 2025. They'll discuss Q1 financials, but also, importantly, recent progress. These calls can often give you some really useful clues about where things are heading.
And before that, back in February 2025, they announced what they called significant progress in their pipeline. Not just in breast and pancreatic cancer, which we've mentioned, but also in anal cancer treatments, so potentially broader use.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And what's really significant from a regulatory perspective is Polari-Orep getting fast-track designation from the FDA for both metastatic breast cancer and pancreatic cancer.
Right.
That's not just a pat on the back. It signals there's likely an unmet medical need, and it gives Oncolytics a potential edge in getting to market faster if the data holds up. That's crucial in this field.
So it helps speed things up with the FDA.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It means the FDA sees potential for it to address a serious condition, allows for more frequent chats with the agency, and could potentially shorten the review timeline down the road.
So encouraging results, and the FDA is taking notice. And it sounds like they're gearing up for some pretty critical studies.
That's right. They're moving towards what are called registration-enabling trials. One for pancreatic cancer, another for breast cancer. These are the big ones. The large-scale studies the FDA really digs into to decide if a drug is safe and effective enough to approve. Success here is absolutely vital.
Okay, vital but challenging. Let's talk about the risks inherent in a company like this, and then maybe balance that with their key strengths.
Well, being clinical stage, the biggest risks are pretty clear. Uncertainty around trial outcomes and getting that regulatory green light, nothing's ever guaranteed.
Yeah.
And the biotech sector itself is just incredibly competitive and highly regulated. History is littered with promising biotechs that didn't quite make it.
True. But on the flip side, what are the major positives? What are their strengths?
The progress with Polareup, definitely. And that FDA Fast Track designation, that's a big plus. Their unique approach targeting those cold tumors, that could genuinely give them an edge for certain cancers. And importantly, they have managed to secure funding to keep their clinical development moving forward. That shouldn't be overlooked.
Okay, so pulling all this together, the money side, the science, the recent news, what's the general feeling? How might an analyst or investor view Oncolytics right now?
I think the recent pipeline news is likely to, positively influence how people see the company. Looking forward, it's all about those big trials for Polareup. Those are the key milestones. Any news, good or bad, from those trials will probably move the needle significantly. And, of course, their ability to keep funding the work remains critical.
So the takeaway might be,
Given the potential and the risks, an analyst might lean towards, let's say, cautious optimism, maybe a buy recommendation for investors who are comfortable with higher risk and like the biotech space. For someone with lower risk tolerance, maybe a hold strategy makes more sense until there's more solid financial data or clearer stock performance trends.
okay, so wrapping this up for you. Oncolytics, Biotech. It's definitely an interesting player in immunotherapy. They've got a novel approach, some encouraging signs, but like any clinical stage biotech, there are still significant hurdles ahead, no doubt about it.
And that upcoming earnings call, May 14th, that should give us a bit more clarity on their progress and what they see coming next. It'll be interesting to hear the details they share then.
Hopefully, this discussion has given you a clearer picture of what's important to understand about Oncolytics Biotech at this moment. Remember, staying informed is always key. If you found this breakdown useful and you want more concise analyses like this one, please do subscribe, give us a like, and maybe leave a comment letting us know what other areas you'd find interesting for us to unpack.